Hello, everyone. Today I will be giving a brief presentation on the history of the Earth First movement. Now, behind me, you will see a decorative canvas uh, that depicts the Earth as being on a grid. We have different shades of gray, you have black, white, tan. Um, Nevertheless, what I find interesting is this is a globe borrowed from my second grader, and it is what we use to learn about the different regions of the earth and the different oceans, the seas, and things of that nature. What I do notice is that the canvas behind me, though it matches the decor in my office, um, my second grader's globe depicts the true beauty of the earth in all of its different colors. So, thought we would start with an interesting fact. Now, on to the Earth First movement. Um, the movement was established in 1980 by an ecological society whose primary goal was the safety of wilderness and wildlife. Now, Earth First started as a very informal organization by David Foreman and Mike Roselle, and their motto was no compromise in defense of Mother Earth. Um, Now, the activists participated in nonviolent actions starting out. However, as time went on, some of the protests did escalate. And in the initial years of the organization's birth, tactics such as physically blocking heavy machinery and spiking trees in efforts to prevent them from being cut, those events took place. And such behavior, once others who shared similar views throughout the nation, they got news of it, they wanted to participate and to join in as well. So the group grew, and it not only grew in volume, but it also grew in diversity. And so, when it comes to the activists, the Earth First movement was actually founded in response to diminishing conservation efforts by the government and major corporations throughout America. Earth First activists were also referred to as heroic outlaws, fighting the force of injustice from its lair in the forest. Earth's First activists found unification in environmentalism, and the activists' philosophical perspectives were that both plant and animals are entitled to life and should be protected at all costs, regardless of their contributions to human life. In providing a direct correlation, this provided a direct correlation between the fortification of nature and social justice. Now, what originated as a small group, as previously mentioned, once the nation, they sort of found out about the Earth First movement and the protests and the different activities that the activists were participating in, others wanted to join in. So, with new members came new ideas, and a stark conflict between incumbents and newcomers was the advocation by some to end machinery sabotage and tree spiking. So, as you hear, machinery sabotage, yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. Some of the protests got to the point to where the activists were actually taking sand and pouring it into the tanks, the skidders, the log loaders, the tree cutting machines, just any heavy machinery left behind by the contractors. Protesters and activists sort of seized the opportunity to sabotage their machinery to stop the cutting of the trees. Now, a good depiction of Earth First activists at work can be found in an article, and that article is entitled Earth First and the Growth of Post-Wilderness Environmentalism on California's North Coast. Now, in this article, um, it follows the activists by the name of Daryl Cheney and Susan Schraper through their voyages to save the redwoods on California's northern coast. And environmental issues that were facing the northern coast at the time included floods, earthquakes, natural disasters such as droughts, floods. Wildfires were also an issue, but not quite as much as they are now. Shaped by the fault lines from the collision of the Pacific and North America, California's social relationship extended far beyond America's traditional and controversial relationships with citizens of various classes, races, genders, you name it. But the most important part was that the Earth First activists they shared the relationship between human and nature, so they didn't necessarily have the prejudices that a lot of others had throughout the nation at the time. In the 1960s, Save the Redwoods was a preservation initiative led by the Sierra Club, which was a transition from Theodore Roosevelt's period of conservatism. In Save the Redwoods, Earth First activists challenged the Sierra Club's actions for the cause. So, on one side, you have members of the Earth First community, and on the other side, were members of the Sierra Club, and they basically viewed the modern redwood disputes differently. Members of the Earth First community they viewed the modern redwood disputes as being mutually exclusive with the path of the more radical side of the environment. So Earth First they served as a leader between the ongoing disputes with nature and culture. Now, Earth First activists did put actions to save the redwoods, and they utilized methods to embody the redwoods, and so it was a less radical approach, so to speak, than the Sierra Club. So the most telling fundamentals of Earth First actions can actually be found within the forest. As funny as that sounds, the civil defiance used by organizations, forest-based affiliates, represented biological harmony with the trees. So these Earth First activists were they were very in tune with their mind, body, soul, nature, all of that. And I'm sure many of you have heard the terms tree-hugging hippies, which is it's not what the activists were, but that phrase does give you a sense of the true passion behind their actions. So, what they would do a lot of times is if they found out, they being the activists, found out that a particular tract of land was going to be cut or industrialized by a major corporation, the activists would go in and they would establish living grounds there. So, go figure, you have someone to come in and that's supposed to be doing a job, and you have some activists protesting there with the teepee, and so that did lead to conflict. But, members of the Earth First movement, they did give us a model to live by. Even today, we have Earth Day, and Earth Day is a national day. It's set aside for everyone to truly just look at the value of the earth. Examine yourself. What can you do to protect the earth? This movement, though you don't hear I won't say you don't hear as much about it now, but it's been kind of given a different name. A lot of people now classify activists as progressives. the desire still is still there for millennials and even people of older generations now to do what you can to save the environment. And it's simple. It's throwing away plastic, recycle, reduce, reuse. You know, we have to all think about global warming. And at the time, Earth First activists, they didn't necessarily have an issue with global warming, so to speak, but um, they did want to do their part to, you know, keep the trees. That trees help promote cleaner air and energy. Um, so it provided us with a model to live by. And with the development of the Environmental Protection Agency in 1970, that sort of set forth some hard core rules in stone for more formal or political requirements too, to for a lot of these corporations to adhere to methods and means by which our earth will be protected. So with that said, let's go out, let's do our part. This is not for a good setting for slacktivism. You have to be active, and it doesn't require a lot of energy. Just if you see a piece of paper on the ground, simply picking it up and throwing it away. You're participating in the movement. You're being an activist, and you're not being slack. So do what you can, save the earth, and that is all. Thank you for joining me.